Hello internet friends, it's Kim and I talked about everything through the lens of a zillennial living in the West. Until I caught COVID last year. Some of you might recall that I had a trip to Europe and I caught COVID during the travels. There was a lot of things that didn't go as planned during the trip, so I was not in the best emotional state to begin with. I wouldn't say I had it too bad, but I definitely experienced most of the common symptoms of COVID. So I was sick for basically half the duration of my vacation, and after I returned to Canada, I just felt like I turned into a different person. For nearly 4 months, I was experiencing signs of what I thought was just seasonal affective disorder, aka winter sadness. I had butterflies in my stomach every single morning and I struggled so hard to get up. I couldn't really sit still and I felt agitated most of the times. I still tried to keep up with my regular exercising schedule, but I could barely keep up. I just felt low energy constantly and something just felt very off. And it got worse from there. I experienced insomnia for over 3 months. And at first, I thought it was just jet lag. But then, it lasted for so long despite me trying everything I could. I no longer have issues with insomnia anymore, by the way. Thankfully, a lot of the things I tried altogether somehow worked in my favor. But that period of time was really rough. I was so sad and I found myself crying constantly over the littlest of things. But there were also times when I couldn't feel anything. I think people call that anhedonia. I lost interest in the things that I used to enjoy. That includes making YouTube videos for sure, but even things that I used to do casually, like playing music, reading, didn't have the headspace to continue with everything that used to be part of my regular life. Basically, I was unable to feel any sort of emotions except for negative ones. In the first 2 weeks or so, I didn't really think it was depression because I thought I'd been through worse than this. So I did things that used to work for me. I meditated, I read self-help books, I took more vitamins, and I exercised more, but it did not work at all. I even went to see a counselor and after 3 sessions or so, she just told me that, yeah, seems like I have good self-awareness, so I should just keep up with whatever I was doing. At this point, I thought I was going crazy. I even had blood work done to rule out any possibility that it could be an underlying medical issues, and nothing came back. So at this point, I just bitterly accepted the fact that I probably caught clinical depression. So when I went to see a doctor, I was prescribed antidepressants and sleeping pills to solve my insomnia problems. I'm not anti-science or anything, but I was very hesitant simply because I've heard a lot of stories of my friends who was under antidepressants, which was helpful at that moment, but the withdrawal was never the easiest. And also I'm a pretty health conscious one and I just didn't really want to burden my already weak body with more medications. So I stubbornly refused to take antidepressants and sleeping pills. Instead, I tried a lot of remedies to cope with my depression and anxiety and anhedonia without medications. I will be sharing my journey with you folks along the way, so stay tuned for more videos. What I learned from the experience was that I was trying so hard to make sense of what was wrong with my mind, and that just kept me thinking harder, causing me to fall deeper into depression. And it only got better after I started listening to what my body was trying to communicate. So last year I made a video about my experience with SAD, and although those methods worked for me, this time it did not work at all because meditating, journaling, and all that jazz only solved the surface level problem. In March, I went for a massage and I stumbled upon an ad for acupuncture. Luckily, my insurance does cover acupuncture, so I gave it a try. And after I explained all of my symptoms to the acupuncturist, and after listening to his explanation on what he thought was going on, everything suddenly clicked. He explained things in a lot more details, but basically, the problem was because I had very shallow breathing, I was always in a state of gasping for air. I was basically ventilating most of the times, which put strains on my chest and my shoulders. Let me show you how it looks like. I need to blend the blush really quickly before I turn into a clown. A regular person would just breathe like this. You would just not see any movement here, but I was basically Because my shoulders and chest were always tense, the muscles around the areas were also tense as well, which delivered a signal to the brain that I was stressed. And doing so for a long time unconsciously just resulted in anxiety. I was also gaining quite a bit of weight, by the way, and for me, weight gain isn't a bad thing, but within the span of a month or so, I gained 10 pounds. And I should have realized that was odd. I was also having digestive issues at that point, if you know what I mean. And the acupuncturist was able to explain to me that my diet was not the best for my gut health, affected some of the gut microbiomes that cause depression. If there's any other piece of advice, I would say you need to know your shit. Literally. By the way, nobody asked, but if you're Asian, I need to show you this lash trick. As you can see, I have very straight Asian lashes that grow downwards like this. And usually people would use the curler in an upward straight motion. But the way I do it is I start with clipping it as close as possible to the lash line. And then instead of just curling it up and up and up like that, I would go sideways like this. And then you go back, and from now do the upward motion. Just clip it gently. Ooh, there you go. Now do the same with the other eye and I'm good. Fast track to now after a lot of lifestyle changes and therapy and acupuncture. I'd like to say I'm doing well. I would not say it was a great experience, but I did learn a lot about myself. I would say I definitely felt a sense of shame when I realized I was experiencing depression. And although I was not creating, I was still catching up with other creators on YouTube, which made me realize that depression has become such a common thing. I'm honestly not sure if it's a good thing that everyone is more depressed lately, but if the truth is that everyone has become more comfortable about sharing their mental health issues, then I think it's a good thing. So if you're experiencing depression or any sort of mental illness, don't be ashamed about it. And you might just have to admit that you're not as mentally strong as you think you are. And that's alright, because you're not the only one. It's not weak to admit defeat. If anything, it just shows that you have good self-awareness, which is a good start to begin making yourself stronger. If nothing seems to work, it's not because you're a lost cause, it's just because you haven't found what works for you. So as long as you don't give up on yourself, you'll make it out. And if you're doing fairly okay mentally, I would suggest trying to keep it up by really working to keep your life in a balanced state. Take good care of yourself, practice mindfulness, and learn some coping skills so you don't have a mental breakdown once adversity hits you. And most importantly, don't keep things for yourself. I know there's this fear of being judged for being weak, for being unable to control your thoughts and feelings. But again, life happens, and it's okay to be a little weak sometimes. Each and every person will have a different experience with depression, anxiety, and all that sort. So what I say might or might not apply to you. And I know therapy is very expensive, but I believe in the power of the community. So if you want to share your story, drop in the comments and I'll hear you out. I know I've been off YouTube for an unreasonably long time, so for those that are still sticking around, thank you. So here's the fit for today. It's a really hot summer day, so I decided to do my hair up. And I'll bring with me this linen overshirt just in case it gets too sunny. This is giving Barbie because I'm still not over it. And I'm going to pair the fit with white sneakers. I have a lot to carry, so I'm just gonna bring with me this big ass Muji bag. I'm gonna head out in a while, but before that, let's do some affirmations together. Be kind to yourself and hype yourself up every day. I am strong, I am brave, and I gratefully welcome everything the universe gives my way. Peace and love.